Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Austin Young Chamber's Civics 201, Issues and Policy in Central Texas for the pre-learning session Back to School, an orientation to education in Central Texas. My name is Alicia Palacios Woods, and I am the president and CEO of the Austin Young Chamber. At the Austin Young Chamber, we are focused on supporting young professionals to be the dynamic business and community leaders our region needs. Among our focus is to create a young professional community that fosters diversity of ideas and perspectives so that we can collectively overcome the many challenges we are facing as a community. We run many programs throughout the year that incorporate business development, civic engagement, and personal growth opportunities. Since the pandemic started affecting our community in March, the Austin Young Chamber has continued to offer programming virtually, over 30 programs over the past 6 months. We encourage you to hop on our website at austinYC.org to learn more about becoming a member and engaging with us throughout the year. And now on to our session. Education of all types is an essential building block to prosperity, and it's important that we ensure education is attainable for all. This session will provide a common jumping off point for understanding the landscape of the education to economy pipeline in our region. You will learn how local versus state education decisions are made, major historical milestones of education policy, and current priorities of local leaders, teachers, parents, and students going into the 87th legislative session. It is my pleasure to welcome our speaker, Jolisa Hoover. Jolisa Hoover joined the Raise Your Hand Texas Foundation in 2019 as the Regional Advocacy Director for Central Texas. Jolisa brings 26 years of teaching experience in Bryan ISD and Leander ISD, as well as policy experience as a U.S. Teaching Ambassador Fellow and Texas Teach Plus Senior Fellow. As an educator with policy experience, she is passionate about the importance of investing in public education and was recognized through the HEB Excellence in Education Awards with the Lifetime Achievement Award and the Leadership Award. Jolisa, thank you for joining us today. I'll now virtually pass the mic to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I'm looking forward to talking education. So let's talk about what it means to know about education in Central Texas, or as we might say, Education 101, as you prepare for your next session. I like to start my talks with why you should care about something. And so I wanted you to start by knowing that what we say at Raise Your Hand Texas is the future of Texas is in our public schools. And if you think about it, our whole future citizenry is sitting inside of Texas classrooms right now. Those public schools often compensate for essentials and necessities that are missing from homes. Schools provide food, mental health support, and special education services. And throughout this pandemic, we are seeing the important role public schools play in our communities. As we look at the numbers, we know that in Texas, 94% of Texas children attend a public school, and Texas public schools educate 11% of the nation's children. And I want to say that part again. If you think of all the United States students, 11% of them are sitting in a Texas classroom. Texas also includes the 3 largest metro areas in the United States, and Texas also includes the largest number of rural school districts in the United States. Here in Central Texas, as in all other parts of Texas, public schools are funded by federal, state, and local funding streams. The vast majority of the funding for public schools comes from state and local funding streams. In fact, public education is the single biggest line item in the state budget by far. So you can think about your vote as a vote for public education. Your property taxes also fund your neighborhood public school. As you look at and talk about schools in Austin, it's important to know that it's not just Austin ISD. You have outlying schools that also are covering in Austin. As you see, we have schools such as Leander, Pflugerville, Manor, and Del Valley, including many others. So when we talk about Austin schools, we aren't only talking about Austin ISD. As you think about the important issues that are coming up, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our work here at Raise Your Hand Texas. Recently, our policy team created a list of long-term policy priorities based on the 7 core beliefs to help guide our work. And these are reflected by our sole funder, Charles Butt, the chairman and CEO of HEB. His mom was a public school teacher and he attended public schools. And like Mr. Butt, we want all students, especially all Texas students, to receive a high quality education. Here's a preview of our policy beliefs, and I think they'll help you as you get to thinking about what are the issues in Texas public education. First, we strongly believe that public dollars must remain in public schools. In fact, Raise Your Hand was created to oppose vouchers or any other division of public education funds to private schools, which are not required to serve all students nor are accountable for meeting the same education standards. We'll oppose any form of voucher program from tax credit scholarship to pilot programs or for specific types of students. And during this time of pandemic, when people are going to be talking about online systems, we need to make sure they're high quality. We believe that money matters in education. Raise Your Hand Texas believes in continuing to invest in public education and that every session must be a public education session, because remember that little note about the biggest line item. House Bill 3 during the last session was a great first step in investing in public schools, but it did not move Texas from the bottom 10 states in per student funding. And while the COVID crisis is certainly going to impact funding, our state needs to ensure that House Bill 3 is fully funded and has a sustainable revenue source so that it can continue to provide the promised education programs and tax relief. In fact, Texans agree. Texans see a lack of school funding as the biggest problem facing Texas public schools, with 59% of Texans saying that the biggest trouble is funding. And they would even support raising their taxes to improve schools. The majority of Texans, 62%, say they'd support raising taxes to improve public schools. And partisanship and ideology are the biggest factors in views on raising taxes. The idea is supported by 75% of Democrats and 60% of independents, compared with 48% of Republicans, as you can see on the graph here. Third, we strongly believe that teachers make the difference. As a former teacher, I especially can attest to the difference I saw my colleagues making and the difference I hope to make. We believe that all students need access to high quality teachers for our state to succeed. Texans agree. Texans have trust and confidence for public school teachers at a significantly higher rate than Americans. In fact, 93% of Texans believe the quality of teachers is extremely important or very important to school quality. Unfortunately, almost a third of our new Texas teachers leave the profession after their 5th year of teaching. And this creates a strain not only on students who need highly effective teachers, but also creates a financial burden on school districts, up to $20,000 per teacher, in order to provide new teachers with high quality preparation and professional development. To meet the needs of a growing and increasingly diverse student population, Texas must do a better job of both recruiting and retaining teachers. We need to support aspiring teachers at a state level with loan forgiveness, scholarships, mentorship programs, and residency programs that allow them to be effective teachers on day one. We need to retain our teachers. Texas has about 350,000 teachers, and as of the 17-18 year, Texas ranked 27th in the nation in teacher salaries. We also support research-based improvements in Texas teacher prep programs and strict accountabilities in those programs. And here again, the COVID-19 crisis is having an impact. We must find ways to ensure teachers get the professional development they need and the teacher pipeline is strengthened. Fourth, we believe in serving the whole child will promote learning. We believe every Texas student deserves an education that serves the whole child and that our state should continue to expand eligibility for students to attend full-day pre-K. The Annie E. Casey Foundation's Kids Count Data Book 2019 ranks Texas 41st in child well-being. And this accounts for economic well-being, education, health, and family and community factors. And it takes into consideration children in poverty, household employment, students not graduating on time, and children without health insurance and parental educational attainment. Texas has made great strides in our funding formulas under the new spectrum weight. Now we will provide additional funding to students Now we will now provide additional funding to students that need it in the most based on numerous census data indicators. Again, COVID-19 impacts this policy priority as well. How do we meet the needs of the whole child now and ensure that we are better prepared to do so in the future? We believe that student growth and performance should be measured fairly. We believe that one test on one day informing how we view our children's academic success is not the best approach. Our parents and communities need to view the entirety of our children's education and look at other indicators like project-based instruction, the number of students taking advanced courses and extracurricular activities to fully measure the success of our students. And Texans agree. Texans identify standardized test pressure as the top challenge facing teachers. In fact, 93% of Texans say it's a challenge or major challenge. 85% of Texans believe it's better to measure student learning over time rather than a score on a single standardized test. We also have a STAR problem. In grades 3 through 8, STAR is the only indicator of student success. In high school, STAR assessment, graduation rates, and college, career, and military readiness are added into it. Issues such as readability of the test and whether it's on grade level, teaching to the test anxiety of students, over-testing, and strong correlations between not being able to meet the standards and poverty all need to be reevaluated. And here, again, COVID-19 is going to have an impact, as I said earlier, in terms of building a better assessment and accountability system moving forward. We also believe that Texan communities deserve an equal playing field. We believe in autonomy and a level playing field for all public schools. We must ensure policies treat all public schools students fairly and that our educators and school administrators have a voice and representation at the Texas legislature. Students in urban and suburban districts receive about $1,100 less through our state's funding formulas than charter schools. This can be seen through the incentive school districts now receive if their school boards decide to partner with a charter school, nonprofit, or government entity. Our state's policy should take a closer look at the funding differences, enrollment practices, and other inefficiencies of a parallel system. This includes duplicate facilities within close proximity. Students in urban and suburban districts receive less, and we think it should be a level playing field. And finally, we believe that prepared students ensure a bright future for our state. We support and love to showcase innovative learning models and pathways to meet individual student needs. If you have any ideas about things happening in your public schools, please share them with me so we can spread the word. We do need to do more to ensure Texas can meet the demands of our employers. This shows that Texas is lagging far behind when it comes to producing the highly educated workforce that our state demands. This is going to be even more important as we recover from the effects of COVID-19. If the next legislative session does not end up focusing on higher education, as some have said, we hope our Texas legislature continues to fund and expand programs that help students transition into college, career, or the military. These include dual credit, CTE programs, blended learning programs, as well as continued support for SAT and ACT exams. And as a speaker, I always like to remind you what I said, and then remind you that the future of Texas is in our public schools. So how do we do that? One of the things we've done is we've hired regional advocacy directors that live across the state of Texas, and including me. We're a team that's working to grow a public education constituency, and we're working in communities across the state to help educators, family, and business leaders raise those voices regarding the importance of public education. We know that each region of Texas has its own specific needs when it comes to public education, which is why our team's spread out across the state. I'm one of the 13 directors hired to handle the business, bring the business community, parents, civic organizations, and local educators together to cultivate a pro-public education climate in Texas. We started our year with candidate forums, and here are a few statistics to give you a sense of depth of the breadth of our work on the candidate forums and town halls. These nonpartisan events were highly successful, featuring candidates from both parties. And as one teacher told me, she said, I've never been to a candidate event that was completely about education. Thank you for talking about my issue. We're also working to help get the word out about the census. As you heard me talk earlier, most of our funding is based on the census, and an undercount for Texas would be detrimental. And then finally, let's talk about you. Are you interested in advocating for public education? There's a few things you can do. I want you, with COVID, legislators may not be spending so much time in Austin. So there's an opportunity to be the people they listen to, as opposed to the usual arm twisters in Austin. One of the best ways that you can get involved quickly is to visit votetexed.org, where you can help people register to vote, as well as make a vote plan and learn all about their candidates. If you're interested in getting more involved, you can text 40649 to raise my, text raise my hand to 40649, or go to our website where you can choose what you would like, what level of involvement you're interested in. And then finally, I invite you to connect with me. The QR code on the left will help you get to that website I just showed you. And the QR on the right will help you get my contact information so that we can set up a time and see how your work intersects with our work. Finally, I thank you. I thank you for being interested in public education, because truly the future of Texas is in our public schools.
Jaleesa, thank you for taking the time to join us and sharing this critical information about where we are as a community as we look at public education in our region and our state. And of course, thank you for the amazing work that you are doing advocating for a strong education system for our students. To our attendees, we are also so glad that you've joined us to learn more. Getting informed is the first step on our journey to getting engaged and active in finding opportunities to improve our education systems. We encourage you to join us for part 2 of this discussion, Education to Workforce, the Pipeline of Development, on September 23rd at 5:30 p.m. We look forward to seeing you there.